Hi, my name is Margarina Brown, and I'm a woman after God's own heart. Just stopping by today just to drop some word and some thoughts on some people out there, and I'm hoping that I reach out to some people and God speaks to you about what I'm getting ready to say. So I woke up this morning and I got into First Kings chapter 3. I started off at verse 15, and it says, "And Solomon awoke, and behold, it was a dream. And he came to Jerusalem and stood before the ark of the covenant of the Lord, and offered up burnt offerings and offered peace offerings, and made a feast to all his servants. Then came there two women that were harlots unto the king, and stood before him. And the one woman said, O Lord, I and this woman dwell in one house, and I was delivered of a child with her in the house. And it came to pass the third day after that I was delivered, that this woman was delivered also, and we were together. There was no stranger with us in the house, save we two in the house. And this woman's child died in the night, because she overlaid it. And she arose at midnight and took my son from beside me, while thine handmaid slept, and laid it in her bosom, and laid her dead child in my bosom. And when I arose in the morning to give my child suck, behold, it was dead. But when I had considered it in the morning, behold, it was not my son, which I did bear. And the other woman said, Nay, but the living son is my son, and the dead is thy son. And this said, No, but the dead son is thy son, and the living son is my son. Thus they spoke before the king. Then said the king, The one saith, This is my son that liveth, and thy son is the dead. And the other saith, Nay, but the son is the dead, and my son is the living. And the king said, Bring me a sword. And they brought a sword before the king. And the king said, Divide the living child in two, and give half to the one, and half to the other. Then spoke the woman whose the living child was unto the king, for her bowels yearned upon her son. And she said, O Lord, give her the living child, and in no wise slay it. But the other said, Let it be neither thine nor thine, but divided. Then the king answered and said, Give her the living child, and no wise slay it. She is the mother thereof. And all Israel heard of the judgment which the king had judged, and they feared the king, for they saw that the wisdom of God was in him to do judgment. So I'm speaking out for somebody today, and I want to let you know that right now it might seem hard. It might even seem like God is not working for you, but he is doing everything within his power and his might to get things in order for you. No matter how long it takes, know and trust and stand still and believe that God is working on your behalf. And just like that harlot who cried out for her child because she didn't care whether or not if she got to keep it or not. She just wanted that child to live. Whatever is dead in your life is going to live. God is working on it. He is doing great things for his people in this hour. Some people have already started to receive their manifestations in Christ. But while you're waiting, we have to learn how to get our anger under control. And we have to learn to be patient, which is something that I suffer with myself. It's hard for me to be patient and wait for things to fall into place, but I had to take time out and ask myself, if God allowed me to walk into the very thing that I have been asking him to do for me, would I be ready? And the answer for me was no, I wouldn't be ready. I would end up right back in where I am and starting over again, because things wouldn't work out for me in this time. So knowing that, I begin to stop questioning God, and I begin to just trust him. And I know right now it might seem impossible, but God can give you strength. And we have to learn to not get so caught up in what our situation looks like that we begin to be a little ungrateful for the things that he has done for us and the things that he has brought us through. Because when you think about it, your situation could be much worse. It could be. But the hand of God is on you right now, and he will never leave you nor forsake you. Even if you're homeless, which I have been in that state where I had nowhere to go, God provided shelter for me no matter what. If it was staying with somebody for a little while here and there, I had to move around a bit with my kids, but it brought me into a great manifestation within the end once I learned to be patient and keep my eyes on the Lord. So God had put something really nice in my heart this morning about when King Solomon had awoke from his dream after requesting God and asking him for knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. And God gave it to him. And as you could see, he was able to give these two young ladies, decipher between the two to see who was telling the truth and who was lying. He was able to do that. God had manifested and made known that he did do exactly what Solomon had asked. I found myself one day asking the Lord, God, can you hear me? I asked him, I said, God, I said, can you hear me? Do you know? Are you listening to me as I'm praying to you? And I began to cry or fall into a slight depression. But after a while, the next day, as a matter of fact, my son ended up coming home from school and someone had been bullying him. And I said, son, I said, we're not going to fight fire with fire. I said, what we're going to do is we're going to go to God and we're going to pray about the situation. And so when I did that, the next day he came home from school and he was like, Mom, he was like, the prayer worked. He said, the little girl, she apologized to me. And she also offered to be my friend. She was like, God really hears you. He was like, God really heals you when you pray, Mama. I say, yeah. I say, he does, huh? He say, yeah. And so that answered my question. So I'm here to tell you today that he hears you. He hears your prayers. He is listening to your every word. And I promise you, if you stand and make it through this trial that is almost over, the battle has been won when Jesus got on the cross. We just need to continue to wait it out until things fall into place. And I promise you, he's working. He hasn't stopped. And all your naysayers, your doubters, the people who don't believe that God is moving in your life, and it's the people that's right amongst you, those who call themselves your family, those who call themselves your friends, they are right amongst you and they are not for you. Some of them, they want to see you fall flat on your face, but it's by the power and the might and God's hand being upon you while you are still standing. He will not leave you. He will not forsake you. Keep talking to him. Keep putting that time in with him. And I promise you, you will begin to see a change in your situation. And if that change doesn't come quick, you will at least have peace of mind. Because when we think of it, peace is more better than some of the things that you can receive, because you can have all the things in the world and still be so miserable. Materialistic things cannot replace what God can do for you to your inner man. I tell my husband sometimes that I love you, but when I get in certain moves, there are things with me that you can't touch. There are things with me that, you can't handle. I have to go to God and talk to him and pray and release some of the things that are on my mind, or certain thoughts that I'm battling with. And I have to tell him I love you, but I got to go get this time in with God. I'll, spend some time with you after I do that. I have to go now. So he understands, him being a man of God as well. It took time for him to get to that point, but he's starting to see now how important it is to put that time in with God, because going through life and trying to fight these battles by yourself, I'm learning that it's hard. You can't do it by yourself. For the longest, I watched my mother work for years to accomplish things and to prove to everybody else that she could do it and that she was strong and she was able to, do anything herself. And in the end, the lesson taught her, that she needed to humble herself down, which she did, and she needed to trust God. The situations that had progressed forced her hand to trust him. And let me tell you, God never left her. He never forsaked her through any situation. Going back, when I sit here and I think about the goodness of God in my life and how he covered us, my husband, oh Jesus, the things that he went through before we had gotten together. He was homeless. He had nowhere to go. And God put him with me. We got together right on time. We struggled in the beginning, and now we're getting to the point where God had cleaned out all of our uncleanness and all of our selfishness and all of our materialistic thoughts that we used to have that came to mind. And he showed us that he was the Alpha, the Omega. He was the beginning and the end. He was the one that broke us down to put our focus back where it should have never left. And we had to learn some hard lessons, but let me tell you, when he finished, it was all worth it. So I'm talking to the one who is crying, who is screaming in the inside, who is putting on a brave face in front of everybody and making it seem like things are okay, when deep inside, when you're alone, you're crying, you're hurting. No one can console you but God. Just go to him and just ask him to just take it up off of you, and he will. He will do it. He will do it, and he will not leave you. He loves you. He loves you. He loves you. And no matter how long it takes for things to fall in line, please do not stop fighting the good fight. And continue to pray and talk to God, because keeping that relationship between you two open, you're going to begin to see his hand slowly but surely putting things in order. And you will have a calmness and a peace that is just amazing. And that's what I'm experiencing right now while I'm waiting for everything to fall in line with God. Well, I'll see you all tomorrow with another video. Hopefully this has blessed somebody. Thank you and have a good day. Thanks for listening.